Earlier, Nancy joined us here on the program, and I asked her what we should expect then from today's so-called Sanders Summit.
I think the reason that Sanders asked for this meeting is because he's concerned that the minute that he bows out, that Washington, the president, the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, will sort of put him in the rearview mirror along with all the positions that he espoused during this race, focus entirely on Donald Trump, and that all the things that he fought for and garnered 12 million votes for will kind of get forgotten. And there is a reason that he is concerned about that. Washington does have a short attention span. Politicians tend to focus on the task at hand, and you always see candidates sort of pivot and move to the center in a general election, and he's doing his best to make sure that that doesn't happen. He's using all the leverage he has, which is A, no one can force him out of the race, so he's sticking around. B, he's got an enormous record-breaking donor base that not just Hillary Clinton, but every Democrat wants access to, and he's got it. And it's a unique donor base, a lot of people who had never given money to a presidential candidate before, millions of them. And so that's why he's holding out. He knows that he's holding a couple of very valuable cards, and he wants to play them after a year-long, hard-fought campaign.
And you compared it earlier today to a defeated opponent refusing to leave the court. But at some point, Nancy, they turned the lights off in the arena and they locked the doors. What are your sources telling you about the time frame with regard to Sanders's, if not, well, not quitting the race, perhaps it's transitioning out of it?
Right. So we know that he's going to stay in the race. We won't see that kind of transition to whatever he's going to do next until after Tuesday's primary here in Washington, D.C. There are 20 delegates up for grabs in D.C. He's doing a big rally here in Washington, D.C. today. But then, interestingly, he's going back to Vermont. He's going to have some downtime. So it's not exactly the pattern we've seen from him when he's really going for it and trying to win in a particular state. He's not going to be setting up camp here in D.C., even though he does have a home here. He's going to be back home in Vermont instead. His supporters tell me that they think pretty soon after that he will, or at least he should, announce that he acknowledges that Hillary Clinton is the presumptive nominee and start to give some clarity to how he sees his role going forward. There is a concern that he's not going to be able to make that turn as quickly as others in the party would like him to.
Is it not necessarily then just a question of policy and impacting the platform at the convention, perhaps, I guess, which is to ask the personal feelings here, the animus, perhaps, how does that play into this?
There are some hard feelings on both sides, but particularly in the Sanders camp, Josh, and here's why. When he got into this race, he was basically ignored by Hillary Clinton for months and months. If anything, she praised him out on the campaign trail because the Clinton campaign didn't really see him as much of a threat. So he kind of got to run his own race and talk about his issues. And he was pretty hands-off when it came to Hillary Clinton as well, aside from talking about her fundraising on Wall Street, which really rankled the Clinton team. Once we got into the primaries in Iowa and New Hampshire, you saw a very different race because the Clinton campaign realized, wait a minute, this guy actually has a lot of support. He could win in Iowa. He could win in New Hampshire, and that could set up a cascade of states where suddenly Hillary Clinton is in really big trouble. So they started going after him on a whole bunch of issues, some of them valid, some maybe not quite so much. And this really caught Bernie Sanders off guard, and there have been some bruised feelings ever since then that are going to take some time to mend.
Perhaps that begins then today in Washington, D.C. with the president. Nancy Cordes there in Washington, we appreciate the time.
You got it.